Hello, fellow Movie Crusaders, and welcome to our latest episode of the Weekly Crusaders. My name's Sean Waskrug. With me, as always, is Brian Michaels. And we're talking about movies that came out during the week of April 9th through the 15th. And I pulled it up before I said it this time, so I didn't have that dead space. So, progress. But we were talking about two movies that came out during this week. These are definitely two very particular kinds of films. One, I think a lot of people, at least around my age group, know about, and then one that no one's probably ever heard of, even though we did bring it up on a previous show, our Halloween special. But we're going to do that one last because Brian has some things he wants to talk about with that one, as well as me. So we're going to go start with my film. My film is a movie that honestly in my opinion, had no business being as good as it was, and that is the 2007 film Disturbia. Disturbia came out April 13th, 2007, had a budget of $20 million, had a weekend opening of $22.22 million. It was number one its opening weekend and was 3 weeks at the number one spot, and had a finished box office at $118.11 million, $80.21 million domestic, and $37.90 million international. Now, for most people who aren't the big movie fans or know movies outside of the 1980s, this is clearly a remake of Rear Window, which I had not seen until about 2 years ago for the very first time, which is actually really good film. It really is. It's one of those older films. I'm like, this was actually good, instead of like a Citizen Kane, where I was like, this is the greatest movie of all time. You watch it, you're like, that movie's trash. But Disturbia, I've always been a huge fan. For some reason, I don't. It might be because of the next door neighbor thing. Disturbia and Fright Night, to me, are just like interchangeable.
I was just thinking about when I was rewatching this one. I was like, this is basically would make an awesome double feature with Fright Night because they're essentially the same movie.
It totally is.
It's like if you took your pick of Disturbia and you took our Cinemamasochism movie, put them together, you get Fright Night.
But good.
But good. Yeah.
But good. But yeah, Fright Night, and we're talking about the Colin Farrell Fright Night, not the old school Fright Night. But yeah, Fright Night and Disturbia, to me, they're like, I was watching this and I was thinking, I was like, wait, was that in this or was that in Fright Night? I had to like think about it real quick. But yeah, I really enjoy this film. And I know I'm going to say it because I was thinking it the entire time I was watching the movie, and I know he can't still be like this because he was younger. I really miss when Shia LaBeouf was like this. I miss the Shia LaBeouf where he was just fun and enjoyable and almost like he's not on the same wavelength, but almost like a young Ryan Reynolds, where he's got that like quirky, like cocky charisma to the point where you could believe that he's a dork, but you could also believe that he can get someone that's like attractive, like oh god, I'm blanking on the lead's name, the lead girl's
Sarah
name.
Romer?
Yeah, Sarah Romer. This was his zone where like Shia couldn't miss. And then of course Transformers came and Michael Bay, basically caused him to have like a freaking meltdown. And I mean, granted, Shia LaBeouf was great in like Peter Pan Falcon, which was a couple of years back, but I really miss this Shia LaBeouf. Like I could watch this Shia LaBeouf all the time. Like this is when he was like, he's grown to becoming one of my favorite actors. And then he went and I still enjoy him, but now he's such a niche, like talked down about kind of actor that like when people bring him up, they're like, ugh. And for me, I'm like, I hope it's good. I want him to come back to like being the Shia that I love and remember. But yeah, another person that I actually really, really love in this cast, that I feel like doesn't get enough recognition is it David Morse or Morrissey?
Morse, M-O-R-S-E.
I love this guy. He's a character actor, but I love him in everything I see him in. And this is probably the one film that he probably gets the most to do in movies that I've seen him in. But he always plays like a military guy or a cop or something like that. And I just enjoy that actor so much. Carrie-Anne Moss is in it. She plays Shia's mom. I thought the opening scene, I thought was actually really well done to set the table for the rest of this film. And I'm going to do this real quick because I feel like, and Brian might not agree with me, I feel like I bogart Brian's picks whenever he talks because I go into my own little spiel and Brian is going to talk about his movies that much. So I'm going to go ahead and hand the ball over to Brian now for Disturbia. Because I feel bad. When I edit these, I'm like, man, Brian doesn't really talk about his movies that much. I kind of talk about
you just like to talk more than that. It's fine, and that's fine. I'll say it's a bad thing, but no, this is a movie that I had no expectations for when it came out. I mean, the trailers looked interesting and stuff, but like you said, Shia LaBeouf wasn't really a star yet. I mean, there'd been like supporting roles in Constantine and iRobot and things like that.
Well, I knew him from Even Stevens.
Well, yeah, that's just it.
I had that bill.
But I'm saying as far as like the star of a real movie, but it's like, because it's like, I mean, this is after he'd kind of grown up, so he wasn't doing like, Holes and Even Stevens and things like that. But this is, before he went batshit insane. And
Michael Bay Transformers,
whatever. But even Transformers, this whole era of Shia LaBeouf, at least for the first couple Transformers, this is the Shia LaBeouf that I like as well. I mean, it was this and Eagle Eye and even him and Indiana Jones. I mean, Indiana Jones had story problems, but he was fine. I liked him in it. But a lot of kind of movies,
Surfs Up.
Yeah, and the first couple Transformers, I really like Shia LaBeouf. I think he had personality. I think he had kind of his own thing, which, like, it was kind of nerdy but kind of cool at the same time. And I thought he just carried himself real well. So I was very interested to see him carry this movie. And yes, it is essentially basically an update or adaptation of like a teen version of Rear Window. Honestly, given the two choice, I'd watch this one every time. Rear Window's a good movie. Rear Window is a good movie, but it's just like this just speaks more to me, I guess. I really like this version of it better.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's not bashing Hitchcock. It's just Hitchcock's never been my thing, and it's a great base story, but I like this version of it. As far as the movie itself, I think that style-wise, I think it was filmed very well. This is actually the same director who did Eagle Eye, and I think I like DJ Caruso. I like his style. The cast top to bottom is good. I did make that. Viola Davis, I didn't even realize was in this movie.
Yeah, this was back when she was.
I had no memory of this. Have I not watched this since I knew who she was? I don't know.
I did, because I was watching this and I like immediately heard her voice. I was like, that's right, Viola Davis is in this. And this is back when she was like kind of like oh god, I'm blanking on the actress, Octavia Spencer, where it was like, oh, she's just there, but she's not.
Yeah, just supporting role. So you go back years later and find out, oh, Octavia Spencer's in Spider-Man. Yeah. Cool.
And she's barely in the movie because she's not a big actress yet. And it's like, right. You realize that they had done this today, like Viola Davis would have been like the one that saves the day kind of thing.
Yeah. The other thing I did not realize when I watched this, and actually not until I was looking into it, logging it this time, this was written by Christopher Landon.
I was going to bring that up if you didn't. It's like, we are both fans.
We all love from Happy Death Days and Freaky, and to a lesser extent, We Have a Ghost. And we'll forget about the Paranormal Activity movie. But Christopher Landon we really like, and so it does not surprise me that he was he the sole writer or was he co-writer in this?
He was co-writer. It was him and Carl Ellsworth.
Yeah, so that does not surprise me at all. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of details in the movie I noticed. I mean, I did want to notice a couple things. There was one thing about, we kind of always talk about these movies like as they were made then and if they were made now, because this is another one. If you made this thing now, I'm sure there are scenes in this movie where people would jump all over them for objectifying women and spying on women and all these kind of things. And just, whether it be, the things that decorate his room or the way he's, looking through his binoculars at people. And my thing is, the girl lives in a bedroom with all windows on 3 sides with the blinds up. You cannot blame him for watching her get changed. Just saying.
If the tables were turned, it would be a hot guy in, shirtless or in his underwear the whole time, and no one would have batted an eye at that. But because it's a girl, but even then, it's I don't want to say tasteful, but it's not to the
it wasn't
where
right. I think it was not really exploitative or anything. I'm just saying that people would complain about the concept of it.
Yeah.
The whole idea of him having to serve this house arrest, I mean, which I get it, because I mean, it's the kind of thing where it's like he punched a dude, which, obviously was wrong. He's going to be punished for it. So it doesn't deserve jail time or anything. But at the same time, I don't feel any sympathy for a guy who lives in that house. That house is gigantic. His bedroom is bigger than half my house.
His bedroom is basically an apartment.
Yeah. His mom apparently buys Twinkies in huge bulk because he makes these giant towers out of them when there's boxes everywhere. It's like, how many Twinkies does she buy at once? I don't know. David Morse, like you, he's a great character actor. He's the kind of guy though who anytime he shows a movie, like even if he's playing a cop or a good guy, you know he's the rat. He's the bad guy. He's always the one who turns out to be the bad guy. But because he plays the bad guy so well in this movie.
Well, it's because he's got that deep but soft kind of voice,
Yeah.
kind of thing, and it's just like a very level thing. That's like it's hard to believe that as a good guy.
My one thing, actually, two things. That first of all, how is this older gray-haired man bringing home hot chicks in the club? I don't know.
He's got an earring.
He got an earring, so that's making him young and hip, I guess.
And he's got a Mustang.
But my other thing is like when, like, let's say when it's at the store or whatever, they get in the parking garage and he gets in the car with her, and starts making weird comments and it's like reaching. It's like even if he isn't the killer, dude, you're creepy and committing crimes right now.
Like, that scene is the one scene where I'm like, you are objectively saying that you are doing what you're doing because no one innocent would have done that.
Yeah, because if you are innocent, now you're guilty of stuff and now you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, I think it was more or less like he's pretty much trying to scare her into like saying, hey, look, I know you guys are watching me and I'm watching you too. Stop messing with me or I'll mess with you. So I think in that scene, it's like he wasn't trying to come out and say like, hey, I didn't do anything. It was more like, look, chill, or I'm gonna come after you next, kind of thing. So I definitely don't think it was one of those moments where he was like, I'm innocent. It's like,
yeah, no, but I mean, it was made for a nice suspenseful scene, and that's one thing about this movie is I think the suspense was done very well throughout the entire movie. I think that they balanced out well with the humor. I thought the humor was done very well throughout the movie without overdoing it and becoming comedy. Even when they got kind of slapsticky with him, with it with his ankle bracelet and things, or his ankle monitor, it still didn't come across as trying too hard for a joke. It still came across as natural, and I really enjoyed that about it. The only other two things I had to say were that in David Morse's house, the bodies weren't completely wrapped, and then there's that pool where it all kind of that house would smell from 2 blocks away. Just saying.
Yeah, it kind of. That's why I was like, part of me was like, was the underground tomb thing, was that Fright Night? Which it is. It's in both.
Yeah.
But I was like, I can't remember if this was Fright Night or Disturbing. And then we got into it. I'm like, oh nope, it's both of them. Yeah. I was like, okay. And I was like, man, how long's he been living there to have done all this? Yeah. That's a lot. That's a real lot that he did that without getting caught.
That's a lot. And that would smell pretty bad. And the only other thing is that the cop, dude, the teacher's brother or cousin, or whatever it was, I was like, he was a douchebag, but he didn't deserve to die. Just saying.
No, he was being an ass because, I mean, anyone in that situation would have been an ass. But by the time it got to the point where him and Ronnie broke into their house and they saw the body, which was the deer, you can even see the cop was like, nah, something's up.
Yeah, and he was starting to investigate, and then he died.
He was like, you know what? I'm gonna give this kid the benefit of the doubt, kind of, and then he gets taken out. I'm like, oh man, I don't think he should have gone that way.
Well, I didn't feel too bad, but I was like, yeah, that was a little harsh. He didn't do anything that bad.
Had they given him a couple more scenes, then that death probably would have hit a little bit harder. But it was one of those like, oh, not that guy. But it's like, why do I care? It's like,
yeah. But now you're free to say anything else you wanted to talk about.
If it had been like Viola Davis, they'd been like, what kind of thing? But yeah, no, I really I think the suspense works great. Like that one scene where Ronnie's running through his house and you don't know what happened to Ronnie, and then he pulls that prank and you're like, oh shit. And then it's the prank, like, I would have beat the shit out of you, Ronnie, if you had done that to me. But then you get to the actual point where we keep calling David Morse his name Mr. Turner. When he actually is like, this is the end game, and he gets in their house, that whole sequence I thought was great. It's like he sees the camera that spots the body, and then all of a sudden you can see his reflection behind the camera, and everything that was shot in that scene I thought worked really, really well. I think suspense wise, this movie works really well. It is the MTV version of Rear Window, but I think it exceeds at being more memorable than Rear Window, and that could just be because of our ages. But I also think I just really think that cast wise, I think everything in this worked really well. It's fun. It's a movie that I've watched probably over 10 times, and I never get bored watching this. even though I know 100% everything that's going to happen, and I agree with you. This with Fright Night is the perfect double feature. I would love the shit out of watching both of those back to back because they're just.
The only problem is afterwards you'd be like, wait, which scene was in which movie? And
yeah, like because like I say, I'd watched both those movies so many times, but never right next to each other. So like, there's times, but every time I thought something was gonna happen, I was like, "Is that Fright Night or this?" It was in this, and I was like, "Okay, that's right." But yeah, because like there was so much with to Morrissey's house. Morris, not Morrissey. Mr. Turner's house had so many layers to it. Like when they got inside, there were so many things. I'm like, how did he get all this stuff in this house? Like, because there was like the clean room, and then there was like the basement, and then there was even more of the basements. Like his house, like they're nice houses, but it's more like they're tall houses. They're not like these wide estate kind of houses. So that part was a little like, because at least with the Rear Window, it was an apartment complex. So you had the layers like that. But I even enjoyed the funny little thing with the two kids. Having that they kept going with.
I wanted to see more revenge on them though, but he did say it was only the first strike.
I was like, he's like, this is a laid out play. That's part one. I was like, I enjoyed all that, and I think Ronnie was a solid comedy relief for Shia when Shia had to get serious. Ronnie stepped up as a good comedy role. I think Sarah Romer as Ashley, who she doesn't really do much anymore.
Yeah, I was surprised that she didn't do much more after this, really.
Yeah, I thought she was really good in the movie. Overall, I think Disturbia is a very, very fun film. It was, and like you, when it came out, I was like, oh, I like Shia, but I don't know if this movie's going to be that good. And I just started watching going, dude, this was awesome.
No, this one really, really surprised me how much I enjoyed this movie. And then I just want to say one other thing. You talked about being memorable. One of the most memorable scenes of this movie for me, which I always think about when I'm driving. Because you know how like Final Destination, anytime you see,
you're talking about the beginning.
Yeah, because like Final Destination 3, two. Anytime you're on the road and you see a log truck, you're like, okay,
we're gonna fuck out of behind them.
Get away from it. Yeah, because of that movie. This movie, anytime someone's like driving like crazy, like me and cutting me off, my mind immediately goes to that scene where like you can, he moves out of the way and then you end up hitting the car, and I was like, oh.
And the thing is the second hit. I'm like, how did you guys not see that? Like, there's a car upside down in the middle of the road.
Well, it wasn't curved there. But still.
But the problem is that they didn't good enough of pull out to show the curve.
Yeah.
So it was just like, really, dude? You didn't see that car? But yeah, no, I was literally late for work one day because everyone was in the other lane because no one wanted to get behind that guy with the log truck. And you can tell the people who have never seen Final Destination, the people that have, because everyone who's seen Final Destination 2 are in the far lane, and everyone who hasn't is right up behind that log truck.
Or even just the lane next to him, just stuff is gonna fall off the side.
Yeah, it's like no. If I'm in the next lane, I'm trying to speed to get in front of him. I don't want to be anywhere in the drop and bounce zone. Eventually, we'll have to watch that movie again and do a whole thing because I know Brian loves the Final Destination films.
The Final Destination movies are the one series that I love to like marathon around Halloween. But the problem is that I'm just like cautious of everything, suspect of everything around me for the next week.
I don't think I've seen any past the. I think I saw the first beginning of the third one. I don't know if I ever actually saw the third one all the way through.
The stories get progressively worse.
Yeah,
but that's because they just embrace the cheese and they're just tons of fun. But that's a whole.
Like I 100% have seen the first two. The third one, I'm like, I know I've seen the beginning now because that's the roller coaster, right?
Yes.
I don't remember
the whole thing.
I know because of Mary Elizabeth Winstead. I know. I may have. I just don't remember anything outside of the beginning. And then the other ones I definitely never saw because I was just like, I was over the whole spiel. But Disturbia, though, is a great film, and you guys should definitely check it out. Next, we're going to be going to Brian's film. This is a movie that up until Halloween, I had never heard of. I had never even knew that this movie existed, even based on the cast. Never knew this movie existed. And then Brian brought it up. I can't remember what it was that you were connecting this to. Was it the
like a sci-fi horror or something like that?
Yeah, I think it was like sci-fi horror. You're like, I'm picking this movie. But yeah, you said this was the perfect blender kind of film in a way. And yeah, let's dive into this one. Brian's pick is the 2000. It's a 2011 film, but it did not get released until 2012. So the 2011 film Detention. Detention came out April 13th, 2012, had a budget of $10 million. It claims it got released in theaters, but I have zero box office information.
I'm not sure that it did, honestly.
It says on Wikipedia that it did get released in theaters, but there is no information of any box office. So no.
Well, even IMDb lists a
whatsoever.
limited release of April 16th and then a release on April 13th. But yeah, I'm not aware of the actual.
There is no budget or money information that I have. So it's this screen that I'm showing you is very bland. It's a bunch of videos because I got nothing for you on it. But yeah, Detention. Which threw me off because on IMDb it's called Let's Be Friends with Benefits. It's doing the whole like exact title they decided to change it to.
The thing is, until this week, I have never seen it listed that way, even on IMDb. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Where actually, let me look real quick and see.
Even if you click on actors from that movie in their like infos, it's like, oh yeah, they also starred in 2011's Let's Be Friends with Benefits, and I was like, am I clicking on the right movie? And I was, but it was just, yeah, they're trying to do freaking Edge of Tomorrow, Live Die Repeat. It's like, no, you can't change it. You can't Birds of Prey this.
My guess is that in some foreign countries where like high school detention isn't a thing or that word doesn't mean anything to them, that maybe they changed the title there. But I have never heard it in any in the United States referred to as that. But anyway.
That title doesn't even make sense to the fucking movie. Whereas Detention does. Let's Be Friends with Benefits does
a little bit.
Yeah. Outside of like one subplot. But anyway, Brian, this is your weird ass film. So go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to test this theory with this one. So Detention, yeah, it's a movie. This is a movie that came out in 2011. It's directed by Joseph Kahn, who Joseph Kahn is also the director of one of my favorite guilty pleasure movies called Torque. Torque is a movie that I fully admit is not a good movie.
We talked about Torque on the second episode of the Weekend Crusaders.
We did, but I consider it a ton of fun. I think it's one of those movies that embraces the cheese and it has a style all its own, and I enjoy it for what it is trying to be. Now, the director here went balls out crazy in this movie. First of all, let me just say this: the only real names in this movie, Josh Hutcherson, he is kind of the star of it. He's also one of the executive producers, apparently. Dane Cook is in it, and beyond that, it's mostly a lot of people you haven't heard of. So the synopsis of the movie says, as a killer named Cinderella stalks the student body at the high school in Grizzly Lake, a group of co-eds band together to survive while they're all serving detention. That has almost nothing to do with this movie. That synopsis takes up about a couple minutes of the movie because this movie is all over the place. I'm actually gonna do something weird. I'm gonna start off just by reading you my actual review of this movie, or part of it, because it's the best way to describe this movie.
His Letterboxd review, guys.
My Letterboxd review, yes. What the fuck is this movie? I found myself saying that literally out loud at several points throughout detention. Remember Sucker Punch, a movie that seemed to have been written based on the random doodles in the back of a 13-year-old school folder with dragons, machine guns, martial arts, steampunk, robots, samurai, fighter planes, and hot chicks all mixed together? Detention is a movie made with that same blender mentality, throwing everything in and hoping that what comes out is palatable. It's a mishmash of random ideas wanting to be an 80s John Hughes movie written with 90s Kevin Williamson dialogue and filmed through a 2000s Edgar Wright filter for style. Because it really is a movie that it's just got everything. Movie is it's a comedy, it's a horror, it's sci-fi, it's time travel, it's body swap. There's a little bit of romance subplot in there, and it's everything is just kind of thrown in here. And I can see this is exactly the kind of movie that I can see the style making a lot of people hate this movie. And this is kind of like with me with Moulin Rouge. There are going to be people who hate this movie, and I'm completely okay with that. I get it, because this is not going to be for everyone. And I'm guessing, when I rewatched this for the first 5 minutes, I'm like, Sean is going to fucking hate this movie. And then he did not list it on Letterboxd, which he usually only does if it's a negative review. So I'm going to find out in a minute if I'm correct on that theory. But it hits you with so much so fast that I think the dialogue is a ton of fun, but it is kind of all over the place, and it kind of tries to be a little too smart for itself in kind of that Scream Kevin Williamson kind of way. Personally, I love the style of this movie. You know what? I'm going to stop there and let you say what you want to say first.
I purposely didn't put my score on Letterboxd. I went into this with some very high expectations because Brian.
I also just want to say, for anyone else who decides to watch this, and you should, I also told him he has to make sure to actually watch this movie and pay attention, not do it while he's doing other things or while he's, doing
Which
work,
I did.
game, because this is a movie that demands your attention because there's so much happening. A lot of it intertwines with little details that you'll miss that you have to watch this movie. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
Which I did.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I went in with high expectations because Brian talked this movie up profusely, especially on the Halloween episode. I fucking hated this film. Hated this. This movie is fucking annoying as fuck. I can see where Brian likes this film because there are moments, there are very, very tiny moments where I was like, is this movie gonna sway me? Is this movie gonna work? Is this movie gonna all of a sudden like be this thing where it's like you have to ride the wave? If you can ride the wave, it's actually gonna fucking turn into something great. And it doesn't. I so badly really wanted to like it because I like Josh Hutcherson. And I actually really enjoyed Shanley Caswell as Riley. I like her. I like her character. I like her performance in the film. But this movie's so just like, I don't think there is a script to this movie. I think that there is like each scene, they're like, hey guys, that we're just gonna shoot shit, do whatever the fuck you guys want to do, as long as by the end of it you get to this point and action. Because the dialogue is just randomness up the ass. There's subplots that are just thrown in like the fucking Flyboy thing. Like, what the fuck is this movie? Exactly what you said in your review. And every time and then what was it? The actor who so badly wanted to be Ben Platt. I can't remember the douchebag character. Who ended up being
okay. I think you know who you're talking about. I'm not sure which person that is though.
He's the one who ends up being the main person at the end.
Yeah.
The whole time I'm watching this, I'm like, I feel like I'm watching Dear Evan Hansen, the horny edition, without the singing, because this guy just kept looking like Ben Platt to me. Hated his performance. Every time he was on screen, I just wanted him off screen. And not to mention that this movie did start off on the wrong foot, because that character to start the movie off, my God. I was so happy when that person came and killed her. But I agree with what you said. This whole Cinderella thing didn't matter at all. And then the alien thing didn't matter at all. And oh my God, the two police officers in the film were fucking horrendous. Like, the only time the movie actually was, to me, watchable when it was just Riley and to Clampton. Yeah, Clampton. When it was just Riley and Clampton just kind of you're muted, by the way.
It's Clapton.
Clapton.
Yep.
Of course, the singer. Duh. When Riley and Clapton were just by themselves, just kind of talking or doing whatever, that's when I actually like enjoyed the movie, because it was actually adding substance to the characters and actually like letting the characters actually breathe. But no, it was just like it almost felt like a Not Another Teen Movie kind of parody, where it was like, we're just gonna throw shit in to just throw shit in. It's not gonna matter at all. It's not gonna make any flipping sense. Dane Cook, I actually like Dane Cook. I really like Dane Cook, and he was horrendously bad in this movie until the end when he actually got to be himself, and then he was fun. The subplot with Ione and her mom, like, what the fuck is going on here? I fucking hated this film. I was annoyed, and I wanted to like it, but I was annoyed as fuck this whole time.
And like I said, this is the kind of movie. There are movies that I will defend, and there's movies that I will say, oh, you did, well, I'm not gonna feel like you didn't get it, but I mean, I'm gonna say like, these are the things I liked about it, even if you didn't, kind of thing. But this is one of those movies where I can look at this and I'm like, Sean's gonna hate this movie, and I get why he hates that movie, and I'm not gonna criticize him for it or anything, because that's fine. I get it. But for me, it's just I loved the style of it. I think that if you made more straightforward movie, like you talk about the scenes with Clapton and Riley, it's like, then it would, to me, that would just be like any other movie. And I think that what makes this movie what it is this over the top style, and it's not for everyone. I totally get that.
But
But
to
it's like
me,
what
the
made this
problem is
movie
that
entertaining for me was this kind of the style of it, which it really is kind of a high school version of Edgar Wright, just in terms of the filmmaking and the editing. Now, I'm not saying the story. Don't get me wrong.
I was like, no, it's not.
No, but
So-
just in terms of like the film, the camera work and kind of the editing and the quick cuts kind of thing, that very much kind of Edgar Wright thing. But the dialogue I actually loved about it, and the fact that they did throw in this blender mentality. It's like this is the kind of movie where these non sequiturs, the fly subplot, or the body swap thing, which honestly, that's one thing about it is so much of this stuff. I don't think it was just made up on the day, because so much of the stuff is actually very smart, the way it like intertwines and things pay off later on if you're not paying attention. It's like you don't find like little things here and there, like whether you see like the guy taking the picture that turns out to be the one that
That's what I liked.
towards the end,
That's what I liked.
and then the teacher pulls him away saying, oh, after he takes the picture, then you find out that's why the dude was in detention in the first place, because pornography, and he mentions that kind of thing.
But then he was in detention for like what, 20 some years,
Something like that.
which
Yeah,
made
and
no
that doesn't make any
sense.
sense. And that's just
Exactly.
it. It's got so much things just thrown in, sci-fi and horror, and the whole Cinderella thing is just kind of. Oh, I did like the meta thing when they were watching the video. They went to the video, and that's the video, and that kind of thing where they kind of went.
I was with it until it was one of those. It's almost like Family Guy, to a point where it was like this joke works, and then they go, let's go one further. And it's like, nope, you went too much. You did it too much, which was the detention thing where they kept going back in time and back in time and back in time. It's like
come
you're doing
on, how much fun was it to see like everybody like the Ashton Kutcher trucker hats? You're like, oh,
it was good, and then they just kept going.
Well, because they were working back to 1992, and you're supposed to be surprised to see Ione there or Sloane.
But then you didn't have to do like 2 or 3 more times in the middle. There was no reason to do those in the middle. They just decided to do it. It was just too many.
And
Same thing with it's one too many. Same thing with God, there was one other scene where I was like, okay, this is got some humor to it, and then it kept it was them watching the movie. It was like, and then they went one more, and I was like, all right, I'm over this now. And there are good moments in here. Honestly, it's the first 40 minutes, man, that's just unwatchable to me. Because that's just where it's like, I don't know where this movie's going. I don't know what this movie.
Yeah, because it hits the ground running, and there's just so much so fast that first half hour. And I keep making this comparison, but it's like the first half hour of Moulin Rouge. If you can make it through that, then you can like settle in and be in the rest of the movie. But that first half hour is like, whoa.
Because that's where I was like, it was that moment where Riley and Clapton are on the skateboard together and actually just having a regular conversation, that I was like, if this movie can not necessarily slow down, but if this movie can like narrow itself down to what it actually wants to be, which it kind of did, because once you went to detention, it then became this like time machine plot. It did, but then it just kept still going all over the place, but it was not as bad. That's where I was like, this movie has the ability to turn and make me actually like it, but then it just still kept going, because then they added this whole alien thing at the very fucking end, and I was like, oh my God, like every time you had a chance to win me, you went the wrong way with it. But now the first 34 minutes, the best way I can describe it, you use Moulin Rouge. The best way I could describe it is like the second season of American Horror Story, the Asylum one, where it was like in the first 2-3 episodes, it's like, is it a haunted asylum? Is it aliens? Is it monsters? Is it vampires? Is it zombies? It's who knows? Like, no, it's not who the fuck knows. It's pick one and stick with it. And then by like the 5th episode, they just abandoned all of it and stuck to one story. And it's like, this is what it is. And when they did that, it ended up becoming one of the better seasons of American Horror Story, which that show's garbage. But that was one of the best seasons once it finally got all the noise and just focused on what the actual storyline was. And it had one of the best finales. This was that thing where it was like, it just wanted to be all these things and all these things and all these things. And I'm just like, just stop. Just focus. I need focus. And just focus. And if you could just focus, you could win me over. And then it would start to, and then it would just go back off the handle again. It's like a fire hose that's just going all the fuck, and then you finally get a hold of it, and you're like, if I can just keep this thing steady, I can put the fire out. And then you let it go, and it just goes all over. It's like, fuck this, I'm done. Let the thing burn. Let it burn.
But you like Freaks of Nature, right?
I never saw it.
Oh, you haven't seen that? Oh, yeah. That Freaks of Nature is a horror comedy, which it was originally called Kitchen Sink when they were making it, because the reason they called it that is because it's a movie about this town where there's vampires and werewolves and zombies and aliens, like everything is in this movie. That is also a very funny movie, not nearly as chaotic as this one. I would recommend watching that one as well.
I don't think I watched it,
but it starts with Vanessa Hudgens and I forget the guy's name. Anyway.
Oh no! I did watch that.
For this movie, it's like I said, I get it if it's not for everybody, and I'm not going to criticize people for it. But if you like something different, if you want to see something just fun and crazy, and you got to admit it's original and creative, even if you don't like what they did, it's original and creative. I enjoyed it so much. This is actually the most I've ever liked Josh Hutcherson, because honestly, I don't like the Hunger Games movies, and in everything else, he's just kind of been there. In this one, he actually seemed like he had personality, so I liked him in this one.
Yeah.
What's that?
I said it wasn't his fault about Hunger Games. He was barely utilized in
this. Oh no, it wasn't his fault. No, it's Hunger Games. I think is just
I said, and I didn't hate his character in this movie, and I didn't hate Riley in this movie. It was the world around them that I couldn't get into, because I bought into both those characters. I even bought into the Ione part once we knew, and even Dane Cook's Vern character. I bought into those characters, but it was just so much just nonsense around it, and just it's like I don't dislike the characters outside of knockoff Ben Platt. I didn't hate the characters that we were watching. I just hated the world that they decided to just make in this. Yeah, and that was my problem.
Yeah, and this is
I so badly wanted to like this. I was like, I don't want to hate another movie that Brian made me watch.
Well, and just behind, I'm used to it by now. But just a little behind the scenes is like when we were getting ready to watch this week's movies, I even told him, like, I'm torn if I want to watch it with him so I can watch his reaction to it, or if I don't want to be there when he watches it because he's just going to be like, Brian, what the fuck are you making me watch? And so it's kind of both.
Yeah. Part of me was wondering if you were like, I'm picking this because I want another Vanishing Ravenous situation again.
I honestly bumped this movie up another half star. This is right now in my Letterboxd, 4.5 stars.
Oh my god!
I bumped up another half star because I had so much fun watching this.
I'm between a 1 star, 1.5, because I dislike this movie so much.
Wow.
I will give you the benefit of the doubt. I will give it a 1.5. But this movie is just a train wreck of nonsense with decent characters, but the story is nonsense. Like I said, I do remember I did watch, I think, Freaks of Nature. I think I may have watched that with you. And I actually did enjoy that one. I thought it was fine. I didn't think it was like,
oh, it's not a great movie by any means. No,
I don't think it was great, but it was fine. This one just, and I like, part of me was in one of those things where I was like, am I just not in the right mood for this? And I'm like, no, I was actually excited to watch this. I was like, nope, this movie just sucks. So yeah, it definitely did not work.
It doesn't suck. Sean just didn't like it.
Yeah. But anything else you want to add for Detention, or Let's Just Be Friends with Benefits, or whatever?
I refuse to even acknowledge that title because, like I said, until 2 days ago, I had never even seen that title.
What's funny is they named it all this, but there's not a single poster of it called that title. It's all
there's nothing. And I looked into this movie because I've logged this movie like 3 or 4 times at this point. And, I also, I've gone looking for information on it for whether to talk about other show in this. And I've never, that's a recent development that they put that title on there. So I have no idea where it's coming from.
There's no posters, no pictures whatsoever that have that title down.
No.
So, yeah, I don't know what is going on with that. But Letterboxd still calls it Detention. And they don't even have it as like a...
And while Detention isn't entirely what this movie is about, I don't understand. Let's Be Friends with Benefits has nothing to do with anything in the entire movie. So
it doesn't outside of like the one character that I can't stand, but he just wants to have sex. There's nothing about Friends with Benefits about that. He just wants to hook up with Riley.
I'm half wondering if there's like another movie called Detention out there that someone mixed up.
There's a foreign film, Detention, that came out the same year.
I wonder if that's what's happened here.
Because when I was trying to find pictures of it, I kept pulling up that movie, and I was like, that's not from that. But then it was calling it Detention 2011. I was like, okay. But I mean, there's plenty of movies that are like that I had to like kind of like navigate and make sure I was clicking on the right one. And once again, another movie where you have the nerdy girl, and like, dude, she's hot. Like, are we really trying to pretend that she is not like one of the hottest girls in the school? Because she was. Like, she's way more attractive than Ione. She was way more attractive than the annoying girl.
I don't know, way more attractive than Ione, but she is very.
Ione's too skinny for me. Like, every time you got to see full body, I'm like, dude, that's just, your hand's just bone. Like, your arm's bone. Like, there's nothing there. And you're a cheerleader. You got nothing in there. But like, Riley, I was like, dude, she's sexy. Like, it's no different than like, was it Not Another Teen Movie with is it Siler? The girl,
yeah,
she's gorgeous, and we're supposed to believe
that when she had the glasses and the ponytail. Ew.
Oh, she still was fine because you knew exactly how
hot she was. That's a joke.
I know. Yes. You take the ponytail and the glasses away, and all of a sudden she's gorgeous in the overalls. But yeah, it's like, I was watching, I'm like, are we supposed to believe that Riley is this unattractive girl? Because I don't buy this shit at all. But yeah, we hope you guys enjoyed this episode of the Weekly Crusaders. If you guys did, go ahead and hit that like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos pop up on the Movie Crusaders. And of course, you can follow us on all the social media outlets you see below. Coming up next, we will have our episode of Cinemasochism, where we'll be talking about the other Nick Cage vampire film, Vampire's Kiss. My review for Renfield is out right now, so check that out. Next week, we will have another episode of Cinemasochism, as well as another episode of the Weekly Crusaders, where we will be talking about a cop buddy comedy film that I think everyone knows and loves for the most part, unless you're just a hater of this director. And then a body swap film that really is a lot better than a lot of people give it credit for. Because I remember I didn't watch this movie for the longest time. Then I watched it, I was like, this is actually really good. So we have both of those coming out here next week, as well as a review for Evil Dead Rise. I am so flipping excited to watch that movie. If you guys don't know why, watch last week's episode where we talked about the 2013 Evil Dead. But yes, until next time, I'm Sean Waskrug. That is Brian Michaels. We're the Movie Crusaders. And until next time, in case we don't see you, go watch the movies and go have some fun.
Go watch Detention.
No.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.